All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Northreach Council of Crowns meeting. It is the 1st of October, 2017. For those of you guys that are watching at home, you can pull up the agenda and follow along, or just listen and chat with your monarchs if you have any comments. We are going to go right ahead. Before we start, is there any regional monarch that has anything they would like to add to the agenda?
None here.
Okay. The first thing on the agenda is the calendar committee. An update on the calendar committee. The Kingdom Regent isn't present, so we're going to skip that. Hope that he shows up sometime before the meeting's over and can give us an update on what's going on with that. So next thing on the agenda is just sort of a quick check-in on how everybody's transition to indoors went, if there were any issues that we need to address, anything we need to do. So I know Astrowinds, you guys did your first day indoors today, yes? Okay. Is that a thumbs up? Okay. Any issues with that we need to address?
There was some issues, but they're self-resolved, so we're good.
All right. Ravenstone, you guys went indoors today?
Yeah, it was a great day. Even with CenturyCon going on, we had 25 sign-ins.
Outstanding. Good for you guys. That's awesome. Lupa Moon, you guys are doing your first weekend next weekend, right?
Correct. We go in as of the 6th or 7th.
Okay. Yeah. Everything smooth with that? Do you need anything from the kingdom?
No, we talked with Mara. She went and got all the paperwork handled, and we should be clear to go.
Outstanding. Okay. Froco, you guys went indoors today, right?
Yes, we did, and it went swimmingly. No complaints and no issues. So
outstanding. All right. Cool. Icefire Bay is not here. I think they played outdoors, according to the pictures I saw. So I'm not sure exactly what day they're going in. I know the weather stays a little warmer down there, and they're kind of diehards. So I may not be for a bit yet. Okay. So has everybody's prime minister turned in their all thing results, Chancellor?
I think I haven't checked in the last couple hours here.
Okay.
I can look in just a moment.
All right. While you're looking that up, we'll come back to that then. So CenturyCon happened this weekend. We're double checking the financials for it, but I just got a report from folks there saying that it went really well. They got everything broken down and cleaned out with no problems, and that they felt it was pretty successful. So they just closed that event down here in the last couple hours. So hopefully we'll hear some more about that in the near future. But we had a successful event at CenturyCon, so yay. Food Fight finished. It's ended officially last night, and we did pretty good. Northreach, their first year as a kingdom, we won Food Fight, for those of you guys that aren't in the loop, and by a pretty large margin, actually. So I can't remember what second place was, but we were thousands of dollars ahead of them. So
they were 4,700.
We were what?
They were
67 to 15 or something like that.
I said they were 4,900.
Yeah, so we were a couple grand ahead of the runner-up, which is pretty substantial. Northreach, you guys did a fantastic job of responding to that event. I mean, we always put a lot into it, but we kind of blew ourselves out of the water compared to last year. And for those of you guys who are watching at home and don't know, Mara was in charge of running all of that for the kingdom. She did a great job coordinating it. She didn't just coordinate the auction. She coordinated a bunch of volunteer service efforts. She coordinated donation matching with outside companies. She managed to coordinate volunteer hours with outside companies, and she did a lot of work to make Northreach's efforts exponentially more successful. So we did a great job. Congratulations, Kingdom. Traditionally, the Food Fight folks will make us a Food Fight banner to show that we won, and they will throw a special feast where we get to be the guests of honor at Clan next year. So we can all look forward to that. So that's awesome. Everybody did a fantastic job. Thank you. I'm sorry, I got a little bit of a cold, so I may be a little monotone. I apologize for that, more than normal. So next item on the agenda is the budget committee. First meeting will be this Wednesday at 8 p.m. So make sure you and or your budget committee member are present at that meeting. We're going to chat about goals and draft up some guidelines for the meeting. We're going to meet every week until we get a draft budget. So be prepared for that. Any questions about the budget committee meeting? So far, most of this stuff's just announcements, so I haven't stopped to ask if you guys had questions. I'm sorry. Feel free to interrupt me if you guys have questions.
What was the time of those meetings?
8 o'clock?
Okay.
And it'll be this Wednesday. No, not really. Is there anything we should prepare as far as budget meetings go? Like, is there something I should talk to my park about as far as what we'll need, or?
You can. The first meeting will be primarily about how we want to hold the meetings and what our goals are. So there won't be a whole lot of stuff that you would need your input, but it will be a lot of stuff that you will need before you go to get input, so you kind of know what it is you're looking for.
Okay.
Does that make sense? And we'll be setting rules, setting expectations, trying to figure out what our goals are, and figuring out the processes we want to use to reach those goals. And then we can go out and gather information and come back and start doing all the hashing the work out.
Wednesday at 8, I am busy. So.
You don't have a second?
What?
You don't have a second?
A second?
A committee member?
Oh, I do have a second, but I will not be there personally.
Okay, who's your committee member?
Harley.
Okay, do you know if she can make it, or if that'll be an issue for her?
I don't know. I haven't talked to her about it, but
it shouldn't. Is Wednesdays at 8 going to be a constant issue for you, or just this one?
Every week.
Okay.
I have a responsibility from 7:30 to 9:30 that day.
Okay.
Later than that seems late.
Yeah, later than that won't work. Okay, well, we're going to have this meeting on Wednesday. This will be mostly just hashing out ground rules. So Harley takes amazing notes, so I'm sure you'll be covered. And then at that meeting, we'll discuss alternative schedule options and see what we can come up with. If you would do the committee a favor and before Wednesday, put together a list of your availability so we can try and take that into account.
Word. I can also just share my schedule with you. I'll just take a screenshot of it.
That's fine. As long as we have I don't want to accidentally schedule another time when you're busy.
Will you record it for me to watch?
Yes.
Okay. Will it be public, or is this going to be?
Yeah, it's a committee work group meeting. I don't know if it's necessarily helpful to have it be public. If there's, I don't know. I don't want to bog anything down or add a bunch of extra work to something that's just us brainstorming how we want to come up with a draft budget to present to the COC meeting, which is public. Yeah. So one way or another, the people will be involved.
I was curious.
If we can do it without it being a technical headache, then maybe.
Sorry, I'm talking to Harley right now.
Okay. We want to be transparent in all of our processes, but we also don't want to
I was just curious. I wasn't trying to blame you guys for non-transparency or anything.
Okay. We'll sort that out, and I'll see. I don't know. Maybe you guys can check with your populace and see how interested they are in listening to us members.
Harley just said that she can be there, so we're good.
Perfect. Okay. And I've seen her notebooks.
Are we going to do coordination for the budget committee over Facebook as well?
Yeah, I'll start a chat with everybody just to help coordinate times and stuff. So we've got your list of everybody's committee members.
Might be the easiest way to come up with a schedule in that if we did a Facebook group.
Yeah, we can make a group. We can make all the groups we want. I don't care. Okay. Any other questions, comments, or concerns about budget committee meetings that start this Wednesday? Okay. I'm going to move on to Dungeon Crawl then. If we need to circle back around to something, just let me know, guys. So Dungeon Crawl, there hasn't been very much response to the request for bid. We had one person respond and submit a bid for the position of party planner. That was Kraken. So good job, Kraken. I posted that in the COC group for everyone to read. So we need to review that and make a decision. Is anybody else aware of any bids? Because a lot of people came and talked to me about a month ago, about wanting to do it or be a part of it, but they couldn't get a piece of paper together to describe how they wanted to do that. So anybody heard anything from their populace?
I've got nothing back from mine.
I know Lucian from Froco is interested in being the dungeon master and potentially even the autocrat.
Okay. Do you know if he's got a bid ready? Is he working on one? Where's he at with that?
I know that he's just sent me a Facebook message and is watching the stream, so he can answer that for me.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll tell you what, we're going, we don't have any other autocrat or dungeoncrat bids. So if he can get us a bid as soon as possible, it would be great to look at. So if you wouldn't mind coordinating with him. Otherwise, I'm just going to have to appoint some random person, maybe one of you guys. I don't know. Right? So anyway, we got to get those shored up, though. I need that going like immediately. So if necessary, if we can't come up. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt. He says he's working on one right now.
Okay. If necessary, we will just run it as a council if that's what we have to do, and delegate where appropriate. So, but this event has got to get rolling now. That's all I've got for Dungeon Crawl right now. I just want to give you guys a status of where the bids were at. So anybody else got anything, any information about Dungeon Crawl? Okay. So in my last digital Bring It In, I talked about how I added the volunteer application to the website. And then we kind of made some posts about that. I know some of you guys shared it to your regions. That's kind of how I want to move forward with sort of having job postings. Like if we need a position filled, it's an easy way for people to go and see what's going on, and then for them to just type a short Google form to let us know they're interested, and have all of those interested parties in one place. So far, we haven't had a lot of people jump on that yet, and I'm hoping it's just from lack of awareness and not from lack of desire to do it, because we could really use some people to do those things. But we do have an application on file now for Blue, who's interested in being our Guildmaster of Spiders, which will be the person in charge of all of our electronic assets. And they can have a bunch of little members of the Spiders Guild to help them be forum admins and Facebook admins and web designers and all that stuff. So that's something we kind of need to get rolling now. So what I want to do, because Blue, since you're here, I'm going to chat with you about it. You mentioned that there are some things that you don't have a ton of experience in, right?
More or less. Particularly
Okay.
Facebook group administration, something that I'm kind of new to. As far as like moderating forums and doing website stuff, I've done it, never in a professional setting, but as a hobby and as a volunteer before.
How would you feel about me giving you the position on a probationary status?
I feel like that'd be appropriate.
Okay. So in light of nobody else stepping up to do it, and my having no desire to do it myself, I'm going to appoint you as Guildmaster of Spiders until Dungeon Crawl. So it will be, you and I will talk a little bit offline about what things the kingdom needs, and I'll help you prioritize it so you can start chipping away, because it's a pretty long list at this point in time. And it will be totally up to you to fill the Guild of Spiders with competent people. I will let you do your own hiring, as it were. Just keep me in the loop, okay?
All right.
Something I want to add to that. I totally spaced to talk to you, but Richter and I talked, and he said that he was interested in that position. Obviously, it's my fault for being late on talking to you about it. But if I were you, Blue, I would say that Richter might be a pretty good asset as far as admin stuff goes. I know he does that for a living. So, and he said he was willing to. So, any sort of stuff like that, I would go ahead and I don't know, maybe look his way, at least for advice. Nothing else.
No, we need to fill the guild with people just like that. So, just because someone's not the person in charge doesn't mean they can't be a super valuable part of that group.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And I want to. I don't know how busy you guys are, but I'd like to try and get at least one person, if not a couple, 2 or 3 people, to be moderators for the Facebook groups, so that you guys don't have to constantly do that. Although you guys are absolutely welcome to stay on as moderators. That's one of the perks of your job. Anyway, yeah, to try and just take some work off your plates if there's other people that can, moderate for Russian Viagra ads and stuff like that. Excuse me. Okay, so those are the only volunteer applications that I've had so far. So every meeting, I'll keep you guys up to date on what we've got on those. It's also a Google form that's in the COC folder in the Google Drive, so you're welcome to look at it yourself. But I will do a little report on that. Okay, so Abram had something he wanted to bring up with us. I'll let you go ahead and take it from there, Abram.
Yeah, so there's a player at my park who is currently pregnant, and we were talking as far as a standardization might go for how. So I know in the past we've had things like a 10 or 20 foot kill rule, where if you got within 20 feet of her and you were a living player, she would just call herself dead, or you're a living enemy player, she would just call herself dead. This, of course, doesn't always save you from things like backstabs and stuff like that, which is things we want to avoid. Me and my top 5 were talking about how we would want to go forward with this, and if there's a standard, if there's something we should kind of standardize in here. And I know it's kind of like of your own volition, you sign the waiver and everything like that, but she still seems interested in playing a class like Archer, or maybe a healer is something I heard said, but I don't know if that was her words or whatnot.
Okay. That is so. What I'm hearing is that we have a specific situation for which we have no general standard, and that it probably would be in the organization's best interest to develop a general standard, as that's not the most uncommon of scenarios. So rather than talking about the specific situation, I think that we should probably address it as a general thing, and I think that it's something we may want to take some time to reach out and get some external advice on. As I mean, there are definitely some legal issues we want to take into account, and in general, we just want to make sure that we're being fair to all of our members and treating them appropriately. I know in the past, whether it be in Northreach or before Northreach was a thing in Lupin Moon, and even in Astral Winds, the players have been flat out not allowed to play. And I don't want to come right out right now and say that is the most appropriate way forward. I'm not sure. I can't personally think of many contact sports that would allow a pregnant player.
Yeah, we actually, when I, during my reign as my term as monarch, we had this conversation regarding a situation in another park where the council that was seated at the time all agreed that at least for our term there, that there was, if you were pregnant, you were not participating in combat activities. And there was a lot of discussion, and I think it's probably on an old YouTube video. We could pull it up and see what discussion we had about that. But there was a lot of discussion, and at that point in time, that seated council had decided that combat activities would not be appropriate for individuals who are pregnant.
Okay. Okay. So, I mean, it sounds like Northreach has a precedent. Before, I mean, it's not in our bylaws or anything, which is, if we're going to have a consistent precedent, probably where that should go. So let's table this for, well, at least until the next meeting. Let me reach out to a couple other kingdoms, maybe, and maybe even toss a message towards Amtgard International's legal representative, and just see if there are any legal precedents that they can just point me towards, to make sure that we're on the right side of things. And then once we do that, we probably should add it to the admin manual, if that's what we do. So is that acceptable to you, Abram?
That works.
Does anybody else have any thoughts on that?
I had a question brought up by my GMR Mordred. He said, would it be possible of maybe getting a physical identifier saying that she's pregnant? This way it will warn other players the knowledge that she is pregnant for the 20-foot rule?
I think the easiest way might be what they were saying, actually, just to for safety of both her themselves and Amtgard legally. The best choice, I think, would, once we reach out, obviously, find out what the other kingdoms are doing, like Goran's saying, I think the best course would be to just not allow this person to be on the field during the combat activities.
Yeah, all I'm asking the council for is to give me some time to do, my job as king, and reach out to other kingdoms and give the council as much information as possible before making a more permanent decision. And I'm asking the region to err on the side of caution while I do that, and just not participate in combat activities. But that may not be the way we end up going forward, because realistically, there's lots of it just comes down to mostly liability for everybody involved. And there are instances where we allow small children on the field. There are even though they're not physically fighting, they're still running around out there. I know there are parks where they let people in wheelchairs sit back and be healers, or archers or whatever. So I'm not really sure. I don't know. I just want to gather some more information and then sit down and have an appropriately lengthed discussion about it, unless there are any objections to that.
And also check legally if we can discriminate people. I mean, we're obviously I don't think we're discriminating, but in terms of saying people, like specifically pregnant people, can't do X, Y, Z, that might be a legal issue.
Technically, and I mean, I hear what you're saying. Technically, it is discrimination, but there's legal forms of discrimination and illegal forms of discrimination. And saying that a pregnant person is not safe for them to be in a contact sport would potentially be a form of legal discrimination. We just have to check. It's just like when you work at a job, and if you can't pick something up, if you're not strong enough to lift something potentially because of your age, they may have to discriminate, based on safety reasons, and that's considered acceptable. But yeah, like I said, let me get you guys some more info, and we'll chat about this over the next couple of weeks and get a good answer.
And this is also a topic that when I was really involved with roller derby came up often, as it's a women's sport. And so it's not unusual that this topic would arise. And so I'm happy to also, bring that information. I was on the board of directors of the organization, Rage City Roller Girls, for a while. And so we discussed it as a board in terms of liability, discrimination, player safety, sort of cultural impact too. So I'm happy to share that experience that I had in that organization for similar. I mean, it's full contact sport, same kind of deal.
And just for reference, what was the decision you guys came to as far as that went?
Yeah, so we had sort of like a multi-step process where as soon as an individual, knew that they were pregnant, they were to inform the organization, and it could be privately, right? It didn't have to be public. But the board of directors and their team captain, which would sort of be, I guess, their local regional monarch, would be notified. And then they were not allowed to participate in the contact portion. So, they couldn't actually be hitting people or being hit by people. They could continue to participate on skates for agility drills or something like that, as long as they had a letter from their doctor stating that it was safe for them to do so. And at that point in time, the liability was basically transferred to the physician that wrote them a note that says it's okay for you to do this. And if they had that, then they weren't physically at risk according to the qualified individual, the physician, who was saying that they could participate. And so we sort of had a stepped situation. And that worked pretty well. Most physicians, if there is a risk involved, aren't going to write a letter that says, yeah, participate in this full contact sport, because they don't want to carry that liability. But if there truly isn't a risk to the individual, and then the physician feels secure in that, then they'll write them a letter without any problem. The majority of the time, people didn't go get that letter, but they could have if they wanted to. And there's certain periods of time in the pregnancy where, a physician would be unlikely to write that, and other times when they probably would write it pretty freely. So.
All right. Okay. And I know we're speaking, I guess, in hypothetical situations here, maybe, until we kind of come together for an answer. But do you think a limited time, one of those, kind of expiring after a certain amount, would be maybe a best practice as far as this situation goes?
Well, I think for this situation right now, I'd like to hold the Northreach precedent, which is no participation in combat activities, until we figure out how we want to move forward.
Okay.
Any other thoughts on that?
I'm with Goran. I think that as an organization, we've already made a decision and we need to hold to that. I also personally think that's the safest route to go, both as an organization and for individuals. So I think we need to come to a conclusion as to exactly how we want to go through with this, and with the advice of legal professionals that are more familiar with how to handle contact sports and health concerns. I also think that this kind of goes beyond just pregnancy. I think there's other health concerns that be dealt with similarly. Things like perhaps blindness or handicapped people might also need to be have a similar process.
We can discuss that.
Okay. I did have a member talk to me and say that they didn't think that a willing and able player should ever be asked to not be on the field. Like, obviously, unless they're breaking rules or something. And if we don't have anywhere where it's written, would we be able to do that? I mean,
technically, yes. We are allowed to modify combat activities, which includes participation for safety reasons at any time. At no point is the organization forced to allow somebody to do something that we feel will be a risk to the organization.
Yeah, and again, having been through this conversation both with Northreach and with other organizations, the safety risk isn't just to that individual, but it's to other people who, unknowingly, who may participate in an unfortunate incident that, like I love stabbing people with my pole arm a lot. If I don't know somebody's pregnant, I mean, like, I'm not a big person. I'm probably not going to throw somebody off of their feet, but I'm going to stab them hard because I like doing that. But I mean, it's not just that individual's risk. There's liability and risk involved with just other people participating in the activity.
And right now, we're not necessarily making a determination that it's too risky. We're saying that we want to look into it some more. We want to educate ourselves as best as we can before we make a decision, and that until that happens, and it'll be a short. I mean, we're just asking for a company.
Okay, that's fine. Like I said, if something was posed. Now, I had something else. I kind of wanted to ask how something should be handled.
Is it a separate issue or the same issue?
Same, separate.
Okay.
If somebody, okay.
Before we do, just keep that note. Is there anything else on this topic before we move on?
I mean, it could be related. We have more
to talk about. I just want to make sure there wasn't anything else waiting for that, and then we'll go ahead and move on.
Okay.
So I'm going to move to the part of the agenda that is regional concerns, and I'll go ahead and let Loop and Moon go first.
Okay. Sorry. How would you go about, if you had asked somebody to step off the field and they didn't, like they maybe weren't, they weren't playing, but we had asked the person to step off the field for safety reasons. What happened is we had a young man who was mentally handicapped in some way, but seeming like it seemed like it was a little bit like, well, to be frank, it seemed like it was far like beyond what we would I don't want to say normally allow, but I guess so. Normally allow on the field. We have had mentally handicapped players on our field for a little while here in Loop and Moon. And I was just wondering, like, we had asked the person to step off the field and they didn't, but they weren't doing anything else. So that wasn't a big problem. But if a situation like what we were talking about just a second ago were to arise, and the person was like, nope, I want to step on the field, would we ask everybody on the field not to, participate with that person if they get shot by that person, if they're using a bow, to not do that, or to, not take the shots, or how would we?
Well, okay.
Tell them.
And I know this is very, theoretical and situational. But I just asked because we did have somebody who we asked them, they were just stubborn, and the parent and or the guardian came over and said, "Oh, don't worry about him." I was like, I just don't want him to get shot because he was already told he wasn't allowed to play.
So this is pretty simple. Anybody who actively participates in anything that we do must be capable of following the instructions of the referees, following the rules in the rule book, and composing themselves in an appropriate fashion. That's part of why we have a minimum age, is because in general, people under that age aren't able to do all of those things. But that would apply to mental capacity or physical ability. So if a referee asks somebody to do something and they refuse to comply, they have no place on the field. If you ask somebody to leave the field for a safety reason, for a rules violation, or any reason, and they refuse to do so, you should halt play. And then you should reiterate that they need to leave the field. There's a couple different things that come into play. Like if we're outdoors in the summertime, it's a little bit trickier because we're out in a public field, right? Like we can't force them to leave the park, but we can ask them to not participate. And if they continue to try and participate after being told not to, we can call the police, and the police will remove them from our area. You can't just walk into the park and jump into somebody else's football game, right? Same idea. Now, in the wintertime, when we're in our own rented facilities, we can trespass them. We can literally say, you are trespassing at a private event, you need to go. And at which point you should immediately follow up to the COC so that we can remove that person from the organization. That's sort of how I feel about that.
Okay, because
we also follow up with law enforcement.
Well, it depends on the situation. The COC can absolutely do that. I generally wouldn't follow up with law enforcement unless absolutely necessary or unless there was a threat to safety.
Yeah.
At least
The question that was asked. The question that was asked was a two-part question, and that was the second part. So like they said, like, oh, like, you know, we shouldn't, if somebody's able, we shouldn't tell them that they can't. And then the second part of that was what is stopping them? Like, what if they were to just say no, and I'm going to walk out on the field? So it was a two-part, and that's kind of how it stretched from that side.
And I've been in several parts of AMCARD where we've had somebody come in who was developmentally disabled. And we've always been pretty successful at being able to integrate them, but it's totally feasible that a situation would arise in which they're not able to participate in the field appropriately. And most of the time, those folks have some sort of guardian or you know, caseworker, or they've got somebody with them. We have to work with that person to either have them not participate or find a way for them to participate in a way that it works with the organization. We want people to play if they can, but we don't want to ruin everybody else's fun if they can't. So we have to make a situational determination as to which scenario it is and then respond accordingly.
Okay, thank you. I think that fully answered my question.
Okay. All right, so it sounds like we have a bid that's been submitted for Autocrat. I will post it to the COC Facebook group as soon as we're done here. Or if Blue gets it to it before I do, then he can. Anything else on that? Like, does that mirror the way the council thinks that the rules are currently written to handle that situation, or should we develop something more formal?
No, I think that works just fine.
Okay. Then Ravenstone, I believe you had something to chat with us about.
Yes, currently my regent Kaiser has missed about 6 or 7 games days and meetings with our local meetings, and I'm concerned. I was informed this week that he did just have a baby, but he did not inform me as his monarch. I had to find out through another member of Ravenstone that this happened, and I'm just going to figure out what I need to do from here on forward.
Well, I believe at this point that you've now officially notified the Kingdom Chancellor, who would do an audit of his attendance, and if he's missed 6 days in a row, 4 days in a row, or 6 days total since Wolf's Cry, then the corpora automatically requires he be removed. At which point you would need to look for a new regent.
Okay, then.
So absences can be forgiven by the all thing, but it has to be done proactively. It means you have to do it before you hit that threshold. Because the corpora kicks in automatically and just you're no longer in office, and it also makes it so you can't be reappointed to that position or any other position for the remainder of that term. So you got to be proactive about it. So Adeline will probably do a quick audit on that and let you know. Should be easy since it's only been 8 weeks since Wolf's Cry. So, yeah.
And so, Kraken, I'll do that, and then I'll just drop you a message. And let you know, and somehow we'll announce that whether or not that's you or me. It doesn't really matter. I mean, it's all public in the org, so anybody could look at that. So then we'll get that announced, and then you can go about appointing a new regent.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Sorry.
All right.
Can we circle back to all thing results?
Yeah, let's do that.
I don't have all thing results from Ice Fire Bay at this point in time. So they're not ready to be officially posted at this point in time. But everyone else has reported their all thing results.
I'm asking him right now.
Okay.
All right, Asterwinds, did you have any regional concerns to bring up?
No, I just wanted to say that somebody in the live chat over YouTube is like a spammer, thinking we're like a gaming channel or something. I don't know if you have the ability to just like kick them or something. But he's got a giveaway if you guys are interested.
Oh my gosh, I am.
All right. Frozen Coast. You guys got anything going on you want to chat about? Let him know. Oh, you're muted, man. Blue, you there?
Maybe he's kicking me.
Sorry about that. I was removing messages from our chat.
No worries. Maybe on top of it. Any regional concerns from Frozen Coast?
Right. Nope, we've been doing pretty fantastic.
Okay. All right. No word from the Kingdom Regent yet, so I will have to get back to you guys with the calendar committee update. And all thing results will be posted as soon as we hear back from Rowan or from Chi, and we'll post that loud and clear in the Northreach Facebook page. So, anybody else got anything before we close up for tonight?
Nothing here.
Nothing here.
All right. In that case, I thank you guys for your time, and I hope you have a good evening.
Good night.
Good night. Bye. Hasta luego.